So if Jeremy Lin is healthy, should he play in Game 5? That's the poll question. I just think there's a lot of risk, and I have to look at risk and reward here. Now let's bring in Howard Beck. He covers the Knicks for the New York Times. Let me start there. If he's cleared to, first of all, do you expect Lin to be cleared to play in Game 5?
We don't know yet, but if I had to guess, I think medically he's already probably clear. I mean, he's already been playing some contact, some up and down basketball. So I don't think there's a medical reason to hold him back now other than caution. So is he cleared? I think right now that's probably a discussion they're having, but I don't think there's any reason medically he can't play.
Would you play him?
No, I wouldn't. Look, I get the idea that, hope is eternal. I get that the Red Sox came back, but nobody in the NBA has ever come back from 3-0. And the vast majority, I think like 90 out of 100 times, teams have gone down in either 4 or 5 games. And they're going back to Miami where, they haven't won this season. And by the way, Jeremy Lin's worst game as a starter was in Miami a couple months ago, right before the All-Star break. And he's been now out for 6 weeks. He hasn't played in 6 weeks, and it's been 5 weeks since the surgery. So even if he's medically cleared, even if he's sound to play, even if the knee is said to be okay, he's not in game shape. You don't get in game shape in a week. And I just don't know that he's going to have that much of an effect or an impact on a game of this magnitude against that team to turn around the series. I just don't see the reward there. And by the way, for him, for Jeremy Lin, he's a free agent this summer, and he's probably coming back to the Knicks. But I don't think after you finally had your breakout season and you're, a virtual rookie, only 2 years into the league, and this was your first real season of play, I don't think you risk it when you're heading into free agency for your first big contract.
If you're the Miami Heat, what questions do you take away from yesterday's loss?
I'm not sure that this is necessarily a big day of doubt for them. I know that this has revived the entire end-of-game situation. Now it's the LeBron versus Wade for the last possession kind of thing. Dwayne Wade had gotten in the lane. He ended up with a Mari Stoudemire on him and had actually gotten in the lane. And it looked to me like, having seen the replay now a few times, that he had the chance to maybe try a little pull-up jumper in the lane before he just kind of lost the handle on the ball. So, the chance for the tie or a foul was right there. The fact is, these guys bottled up Carmelo Anthony for 3 straight games, held him to 33% shooting throughout the series. Carmelo finally shot 50% yesterday. You figured he's going to have a game like that. He was due. They were at home. They were desperate. I don't think that Miami has to draw any drastic conclusions out of this. They know how to beat this team.
I was confused because when LeBron's on Melo, he takes a lot of his game away. Shane Battier had no chance. Even late in the game, I don't know why LeBron wasn't on Carmelo Anthony. Can you help me with that?
Sounds like a question for Eric Spoelstra. I agree with you. I think LeBron is a much, much tougher cover or a tougher matchup for Carmelo, a tougher guy to get past. Shane Battier has had his moments against Carmelo, but, yesterday he looked helpless against him. And frankly, Carmelo seems to be able to take Battier off the dribble whenever he wants to, and so now you're in a help defense situation. I don't know what Spoelstra was thinking in that one. I wasn't at his post-game press conference yesterday either, but I believe that you want your best defender and your sturdiest defender on Carmelo at that time, and that's got to be LeBron.
He's Howard Beck of the New York Times, covering the Knicks, joining us at the Dan Patrick Show. How does Mike Woodson keep this job?
Well, yesterday helped a lot. I know, you could say, well, they go down in 5. Hey, it was still, it was still a short series, and they only won 1 playoff game. That was a big playoff game. Mike Woodson just did what Mike D'Antoni, Larry Brown, Isaiah Thomas, Lenny Wilkins, and Don Chaney didn't do for the last 10 years. He won a playoff game, and it's just one. It's not a series, and they're probably not winning the series. But I just think psychologically for this franchise, for these players, for these fans, a little bit of a weight has lifted. They can see a little bit of light there now. And, it's not some major accomplishment. I don't want to turn one playoff victory into the be-all, end-all. But this franchise has had such a tough time taking any step forward. It's so many fits and starts, so many, false saviors in terms of players, coaches, everything else. This is a little bit of hope for them. And besides that, most teams, when they go down 3-0, the vast majority get swept because their spirit's gone at that point and they think they have no hope. Mike Woodson had that team still believing, still ready to play yesterday. They pull it out after Baron Davis has gone down and after they'd already lost Iman Shumpert before, after Amari Stoudemire's hand. I mean, he's held them together. I think that counts for something.
But if you're a Knicks fan, or maybe even a player, if you want, is there a chance for Phil Jackson to come in, or can Mike Woodson actually coach himself into next year if, let's say, he wins one more game here? Or has he already done that? Do you not go out and say, let's take a chance on Phil Jackson?
No, I mean, I think if Phil Jackson is available and interested, it doesn't matter who's coaching, and even if Mike Woodson won Game 5, look, that's a very easy call. If you've got a guy with 11 championship rings, you throw overboard the guy you've got. I'm sorry, that's the cruel reality of the NBA. But I don't think that Phil Jackson is as viable a candidate as a lot of people seem to think he is for a variety of reasons. If he is available, if he is interested, then yes, of course, no matter how this thing ends. As unfortunate as it would be for Mike Woodson, Phil Jackson's obviously a better option than almost anyone. That's not an insult to Mike Woodson. That's just a credit to Phil Jackson.
I just couldn't see Phil coaching Carmelo.
I can't either. I can't either. Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, they had some things in common, not only in terms of talent, but in terms of the way they saw the game. And Phil had to get through to both of them at some point about being willing to kind of sublimate their game a little bit, to play more of a team game. And it was up and down with Kobe. There's times he did and times he didn't, but ultimately Kobe understood that the triangle offense was going to be great for him and great for his teammates, and that was the path to championships, and that he had to play a different way. Carmelo Anthony has never responded to anybody on that particular philosophical point. So I don't know that frankly, this team besides, I just don't think that this is a Phil Jackson type of team right now. And I don't think this is a Phil Jackson type of organization. We know that Phil shoots from the hip. The Garden hates shooting from the hip. They do not like candor. Jim Dolan doesn't want his coaches, his GMs, or anybody else speaking openly about anything. And Phil, he's going to rip his own players. He's going to rip other coaches. He's going to rip cities. He's going to rip the commissioner. He's going to make jokes about just about everybody at some point. And, that's not the Garden way. He will be clashing with their policies within 30 seconds of being hired.
Good to visit with you again, Howard. We'll check in later. Thank you.
Anytime, Dan. Thank you.
All right. Howard Beck, New York Times, covering the Knicks. Yeah, everybody gets caught up in Phil Jackson. Well, you got to pay him. And plus, I look at that roster. That's just not a roster. Phil has picked his spots where he wants to play and who he's going to be coaching. And he always had somebody that he knew he could count on when he needed to, whether it's practice, motivating, big shot, big moment, do what I say, others will follow you. He's had those people. And I think if you're going to look at that roster, that's not his type of roster.